Someone compliments your work, you say thank you, and by the next morning, it's gone. But that one comment, the critical one, the offhand remark, the thing someone said 3 years ago in a hallway, that one is still with you. Clear, specific, almost word for word. You've had wins. You've had good days. People have believed in you. You've done things right. But somehow none of it seems to stay. And this isn't about confidence or self-esteem or needing more therapy. This is about your brain and the very specific way it was built to keep you alive. The problem is, it was built for a world that no longer exists. Think about the last time you made a mistake at work. Maybe you said the wrong thing in a meeting, forgot an important detail, sent an email before you meant to. It probably lasted, not the event, but the feeling of the event. You replayed it on the drive home, in the shower, right before sleep. You constructed entire alternate timelines of what you should have said, should have done, should have been. And meanwhile, if someone had asked you that same week to name 3 things you did well, you would have paused for a long time. Maybe said, I don't know, with a small, tired laugh. This isn't you being hard on yourself. This is you being human, but there's a cost. When you can't hold on to your wins, your sense of who you are gets built almost entirely out of your failures. Not because you are your failures, but because those are the memories that get the most repetition, the most emotional charge, the most neural reinforcement. Your internal story becomes, I keep making mistakes. I'm not as capable as people think. One day they'll figure that out. That story shapes how you walk into rooms, how you pitch ideas, whether you say what you actually think, whether you rest without guilt. It shapes your decisions quietly, invisibly, constantly. And here's what makes it more complex. The people around you probably don't see it. From the outside, you might look confident, composed, even successful. But on the inside, you're carrying a mental archive that's almost entirely made of everything that went wrong. Every embarrassment, every stumble, every moment you didn't show up as the person you wanted to be. This isn't a character flaw. This is a design feature. And to understand why it does this, you have to understand what your brain was actually built for. Here is something that might be the most important thing in this entire video. Your brain is not trying to hurt you. It's trying to protect you. The asymmetry, the way bad memories stick and good ones slide, is not evidence of a damaged psyche or a trauma response or a weakness of will. It is evidence that your brain is working exactly as designed. The problem isn't the system. The problem is that the system was designed for a world of physical survival, and you're living in a world of social performance, self-identity, and long-term emotional health. Your brain is a survival machine running in an environment it was never optimized for. And once you understand the mechanism behind it, something shifts. Not magically, not overnight. But the relationship you have with your own mind starts to change. Because you stop fighting yourself and start understanding yourself. There's a well-documented principle in psychology called negativity bias. It's one of the most replicated findings in cognitive and behavioral science. And it says this: negative experiences are encoded more deeply, processed more thoroughly, and recalled more easily than positive ones, even when the positive experiences are objectively more frequent. In a landmark study, researchers John Cacioppo and Gary Bernsen found that the brain's electrical response to negative stimuli is measurably stronger than to positive stimuli of equal intensity. The brain simply cares more about bad than good. But why? Think about your distant ancestors. In a world without hospitals, legal systems, or grocery stores, missing a threat was fatal. If you didn't remember that a certain berry made you sick, you ate it again. If you didn't remember the face of the person who betrayed you, you trusted them again. If you didn't replay the moment you nearly fell from that ledge, you might not be cautious next time. Forgetting danger was a death sentence. But forgetting a good day? That was survivable. So the brain evolved to treat negative information like a high-priority file, to be compressed, backed up, and stored in multiple locations. And positive information gets treated like a temporary cache, useful for a moment, then cleared. This is sometimes called the negativity asymmetry. The brain allocates more neural resources to encoding, storing and retrieving negative events than positive ones. Neuroscientist Rick Hanson put it simply: the brain is like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive ones. Now add to that a second mechanism, the rehearsal loop. When something goes wrong, the brain doesn't just store the memory, it replays it. This is the amygdala, the brain's threat detection system, flagging the event as unresolved and instructing the prefrontal cortex to keep analyzing it. Looking for what went wrong, looking for patterns, looking for how to prevent it from happening again. This is rumination. And it isn't irrational. It's the brain's version of problem solving. The mental model to hold here is this. Imagine your memory as a hard drive with a threat folder and a neutral folder. Everything that triggers fear, shame, or social pain goes straight into the threat folder. It gets tagged, indexed, cross-referenced, easy to pull up later. Everything else, the ordinary good days, the quiet successes, the moments of genuine warmth, goes into the neutral folder. No special indexing, no automatic retrieval. When you sit down at the end of the day and ask yourself, how am I doing? Your brain searches the most accessible files first. The threat folder answers immediately. The neutral folder takes longer, or stays quiet altogether. This is why your wins disappear. Not because they didn't happen, but because your brain never had a reason to make them easy to find. So what do you do with this? Not in a fix-yourself sense, in a working with your brain sense. Here are 5 principles, each grounded in how the brain actually processes experience. The brain automatically closes the loop on wins by treating them as done. A good thing happened. The brain registers it as safe. Threat level, 0. And then, because there's nothing to problem solve, it files it away without ceremony. The intervention here is simple, but the timing matters. When something goes well, a project, a conversation, a moment of quiet courage, don't just move on. This isn't affirmation work. This is neuroscience. Research by Rick Hanson on what he calls positive neuroplasticity suggests that holding a positive experience in conscious awareness for at least 15 to 30 seconds gives it enough time to begin transferring from short-term sensation into longer-term neural encoding. You are, in a very literal sense, manually overriding the brain's default filing system. In daily life, you finish a difficult conversation and it goes better than expected. Instead of immediately checking your phone or moving to the next task, you sit for half a minute and notice how that felt. Let it register. That's it. Name it to tame it is a well-known emotional regulation principle. Originally from Dr. Dan Siegel, the idea that labeling a negative emotion reduces its intensity in the brain. Most people use this for anxiety, for anger, for overwhelm. But the same principle works in reverse. When something good happens, name it specifically. Not, that went well, but I communicated clearly in a high-pressure moment. That was real. Specificity creates encoding. Vague positive experiences stay vague. Specific ones have something for the brain to attach to. This is linked to the psychology of self-concept clarity. The more clearly you can define your positive experiences in language, the more accessible they become when you're constructing your self-narrative under stress. In daily life, keep a one-sentence win log, not a journal, not a gratitude list. Just one sentence at the end of the day, the most specific factual good thing that happened. I stayed calm when the conversation got hard. That sentence becomes a retrievable file. Not all replaying of mistakes is harmful. The brain replays negative events to extract information, to find the lesson, identify the threat, create a plan. This is adaptive. This is healthy. The problem begins when the loop has already extracted everything it can and keeps running anyway. This is the shift from reflective processing to ruminative looping. Psychologist Susan Nolan-Hoeksema spent decades researching rumination and found that the key distinction isn't what you're thinking about. It's whether the thinking is directed toward problem-solving or circling without resolution. Ask yourself one question. Is this thought helping me understand something, or is it just replaying? If it's the former, stay with it. Extract the lesson. Make the adjustment. If it's the latter, your brain has already done its work. What's running now is static, not signal. The practical tool here is a short written reflection immediately after a mistake. What happened? What I'd do differently? And one thing it doesn't mean about me as a person. 3 lines. Close the file consciously. Give the brain permission to stop running the loop. One of the most well-documented cognitive distortions is called mental filtering, the tendency to focus on one negative detail and allow it to define the entire picture while discounting contradicting positive data. This isn't bias in the pejorative sense. It's the brain applying its threat detection logic to self-evaluation. But you can retrain the weighting. Psychologist Martin Seligman's work on learned optimism suggests that when you encounter a negative event, the way you explain it to yourself matters more than the event itself. The brain defaults to explaining failure as permanent, pervasive, and personal, and explaining success as temporary, situational, and lucky. You can practice consciously reversing this, not through forced positivity, but through accurate reattribution. When something goes wrong, is this really permanent? Is it really about my entire identity? Or is this one event with specific causes in a specific context? When something goes right, was this only luck? Or did something I did contribute to this? Be honest, not inflated, just honest. In daily life, after a win, resist the instinct to say, anyone could have done that. Ask instead, what did I actually bring to this? Your brain's internal memory system is biased. You now know why. The solution isn't to fix your brain. It's to outsource the job it doesn't do well. Create an evidence folder. This can be a note on your phone. A folder in your email where you drag compliments and wins. A small notebook. Any form works. The psychological basis here is called external scaffolding. Using your environment to support cognitive functions the brain doesn't perform reliably on its own. This is the same principle behind writing grocery lists, setting calendar reminders, and keeping a to-do list. Your brain doesn't reliably remember your wins. So you build a system that does it for you. And crucially, you return to it, not every day, but on the days when the threat folder is all you can hear. On those days, you open the evidence folder and let accurate information compete with the distorted narrative. You're not looking for a mood boost. You're looking for data. The brain responds differently to evidence than to affirmations. Evidence creates cognitive dissonance with the negative narrative, and the brain, which dislikes inconsistency, is forced to update its model. Here's the mental model you can carry with you. Your brain is a security system, not a scorekeeper. Security systems are calibrated to notice threats. That's their purpose. You wouldn't expect a home alarm to celebrate every quiet night. It's designed to respond to what's wrong, not to log what's right. So when your brain fills up with mistakes and empties out the wins, it's doing its job. The problem is, you're also trying to live a life, build a sense of self, show up to relationships and work and creative projects with some stable foundation of who you are. A security system can't do that for you. You have to build that archive yourself, not through forced optimism, not through dismissing what went wrong, but by actively, deliberately, consistently giving your brain access to the full record, not just the threat file. Pause after the wins. Name them specifically. Write them down. Return to them when the noise gets loud. This is not self-help. This is working with the grain of your own neurology. You haven't been lying to yourself. You've been listening to a system that was built to keep you safe and mistaking its output for the truth about who you are. Every person who seems secure in themselves, who seems to carry their wins with them, they're not built differently. They've just found ways, consciously or not, to counter the default. They pause. They name things. They hold on to evidence. And slowly, the internal record starts to become more accurate. Not more positive, more accurate. That's all this is. You've done things right. More than the security system has logged. And somewhere in the gaps between the replays, you already know that. The work is just learning how to let it stay.